A porcelain plate shattered across the polished marble floor of the executive dining hall, and every conversation in the room stopped. The dish that had just been served to impress billionaire investors carried a flavor so unmistakable that one quiet single father turned pale before anyone else noticed. In that single heartbeat, a meal worth thousands of dollars became the first crack in a deception that had quietly stolen more than $1.6 billion. The powerful CEO standing at the center of the room believed she was paying a desperate man to disappear forever. She had no idea that the recipe on that broken plate would expose the greatest fraud her company had ever hidden. If you believe kindness is stronger than pride, forgiveness is more powerful than revenge, and every person deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that inspire hope. Rowan Mercer had never imagined that cooking a simple family recipe would change the lives of thousands of employees. At 38 years old, he had learned that survival rarely looked heroic. Every weekday morning began before sunrise, not because he chased wealth, but because his 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, deserved a life untouched by the hardships she had already seen. After losing his wife, Rowan had traded his dream of opening a neighborhood restaurant for whatever honest work kept food on the table. He washed dishes, delivered groceries, repaired kitchen equipment, and occasionally accepted temporary catering jobs. Every paycheck disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived, but Hazel never went to bed wondering whether her father loved her. That was the one promise Rowan had never broken. Hazel believed her father could fix anything. Broken bicycles, cracked flowerpots, burnt pancakes, lonely afternoons, and even broken hearts somehow felt smaller whenever Rowan smiled. She often told him that his cooking made ordinary days feel like holidays. Rowan laughed whenever she said it, but deep inside he treasured those words more than any award he could have won. The recipes he prepared came from his late wife's handwritten notebook, a collection filled with stains, folded corners, and little notes reminding anyone reading them that food tasted better when made with patience. Several miles away, Celeste Hawthorne stood inside the towering headquarters of Hawthorne Biotech, a corporation praised around the world for transforming food technology and sustainable agriculture. At 45, Celeste had become one of the youngest CEOs ever to lead a Fortune 500 company. Newspapers celebrated her intelligence. Television hosts admired her confidence. Investors trusted her decisions without hesitation. Yet behind every public smile lived an exhausting fear. The board expected perfection. Shareholders demanded endless growth. Her engagement to ambitious financier Grant Ellison had become another carefully polished headline that strengthened investor confidence. Few people realized how lonely success had become for Celeste. Since taking control of the company after her father's retirement, she rarely trusted anyone completely. Every relationship felt connected to business. Every compliment sounded rehearsed. Every meeting ended with another impossible expectation. The annual Investor Appreciation Luncheon represented the company's proudest tradition. Every executive attended. International partners flew in. Reporters filled every available seat. Months of preparation surrounded a single afternoon designed to convince the world that Hawthorne Biotech remained unstoppable. That year, disaster struck only hours before guests arrived. The celebrity chef hired for the event collapsed from severe dehydration and had to be rushed to a hospital. Panic spread through the kitchen. Hundreds of meals still needed preparation. Someone remembered Rowan, who had been repairing commercial ovens in the building that morning through a maintenance contractor. When they learned he had years of restaurant experience, desperation overpowered hesitation. Rowan accepted because he needed the money. Working quietly beside an overwhelmed kitchen staff, Rowan transformed confusion into calm. Instead of chasing impossible perfection, he simplified every menu, focused on fresh ingredients, and relied on techniques learned beside his wife years earlier. The exhausted staff slowly regained confidence. Even veteran chefs admitted they had never seen someone create order so gently. Among the featured dishes was a roasted vegetable risotto finished with an herb butter unlike anything served by luxury restaurants. Rowan insisted on using a small blend of herbs that gave the dish warmth instead of overwhelming richness. He explained to nobody that the recipe belonged to Hazel's mother. The luncheon began flawlessly, guests praised every course, investors smiled, stock analysts nodded approvingly, everything appeared perfect until Grant Ellison requested that the signature dish be served to a private executive table first. As Rowan watched servers carry the plates away, a strange expression crossed his face. The aroma drifting back from the dining hall wasn't identical to what had left his kitchen. Someone had changed the recipe. Minutes later, applause echoed throughout the ballroom as Grant publicly praised the new premium formula behind Hawthorne's revolutionary nutrition technology. His speech connected the dish's unique flavor to an upcoming billion-dollar product launch. Cameras flashed. Investors celebrated. Rowan froze. That flavor did not come from his recipe. Years earlier, before financial hardship forced him to leave professional kitchens, Rowan had consulted briefly for an independent food laboratory. During that project he learned to recognize an experimental additive developed to imitate natural herb flavors while dramatically lowering production costs. The ingredient had been abandoned because researchers discovered hidden long-term contamination risks whenever it interacted with certain preservation chemicals. The smell coming from Grant's featured dish matched that abandoned additive perfectly. Nobody else recognized it. Rowan did. His concern reached Celeste through an assistant who dismissed him as a temporary worker causing unnecessary trouble. Already stressed by the event, Celeste assumed the maintenance contractor simply wanted attention. She approached Rowan privately after the luncheon with visible frustration, believing she was protecting the company's reputation. Celeste handed Rowan an envelope containing $10,000. She explained that generous people knew when to walk away quietly, suggesting the money would help his daughter while preventing embarrassing rumors. She believed compassion and practicality could solve the situation together. Rowan looked at the envelope for a long moment. $10,000 could erase months of overdue bills. It could replace Hazel's worn-out shoes. It could repair the leaking roof above their tiny apartment. It could finally buy the birthday bicycle Hazel had admired every afternoon while walking home from school. Yet Rowan slowly closed the envelope and placed it back on the polished conference table. Money could feed his family, silence could poison thousands more. Without anger, he simply requested that one untouched serving of the risotto be tested independently before production of the company's new nutritional products continued. Celeste refused. She believed fear had clouded his judgment. Grant insisted the accusation was ridiculous. Security escorted Rowan from the building, walking away under the bright afternoon sun. Rowan felt defeated. Hazel hugged him when he arrived home and immediately noticed something was wrong. She listened quietly while he explained everything in gentle words suitable for a child. Instead of asking about the money they had lost, Hazel surprised him with a question that echoed in his heart. She wondered whether telling the truth was still the right thing if nobody believed it. Rowan answered that truth sometimes walked alone before everyone else finally caught up. The following afternoon, one honest kitchen employee contacted Rowan secretly. She admitted seeing Grant replace Rowan's herb butter before service and asked whether the recipe truly mattered. Together they preserved a remaining sample stored inside a refrigerated preparation tray that had never reached the dining room. Independent laboratory testing confirmed Rowan's worst fear. The abandoned additive had indeed contaminated the dish. More shocking still, investigators discovered the same chemical appeared throughout confidential manufacturing records connected to Hawthorne. Biotech's upcoming flagship products. Government regulators immediately opened an investigation. Forensic accountants uncovered something even larger. Over several years, millions of dollars intended for quality testing had quietly disappeared through shell companies controlled by Grant and several outside executives. Safety reports had been rewritten. Research results had been manipulated. Investors had been deceived. Public filings concealed losses through fake supplier contracts. By the time investigators finished tracing every transaction, the total financial fraud exceeded $1.6 billion. News channels exploded with coverage. Employees feared the company would collapse. Thousands worried about losing their jobs. Celeste experienced the darkest days of her career. Every decision she thought had protected the company suddenly looked like evidence of terrible leadership. She replayed the moment she offered Rowan $10,000 again and again, realizing she had nearly purchased silence instead of seeking truth. Grant disappeared briefly before authorities arrested him while attempting to transfer assets overseas. Several executives resigned. Others faced criminal investigations. Throughout the media storm, Rowan avoided interviews. He returned to temporary kitchen work, believing attention belonged to the investigators, not him. He had never wanted fame. He had only wanted someone to test a plate of food. Weeks later, Celeste requested one final meeting. This time no cameras waited. No lawyers surrounded the conference table, only sunlight streamed through wide windows overlooking the city. Celeste apologized without excuses. She admitted that success had slowly convinced her that money solved every problem. She confessed that offering Rowan $10,000 remained the greatest mistake of her professional life because she had unknowingly valued convenience above integrity. Rowan accepted the apology with quiet grace. He explained that forgiveness did not erase consequences, but it allowed better decisions to grow afterward. Inspired by his humility, Celeste made a decision that shocked both employees and investors. Instead of closing departments to recover financial losses, she reduced executive bonuses, sold luxury corporate assets, and personally invested much of her own compensation into protecting ordinary workers from layoffs. She launched independent ethics oversight across every division and created scholarships honoring whistleblowers whose honesty protected public safety. Then she asked Rowan to help redesign every employee cafeteria across the company, not because he had exposed fraud, because he reminded everyone that food represented trust. Rowan accepted under one condition. Every cafeteria would include affordable family meals inspired by recipes ordinary parents could recreate at home. Hazel visited the headquarters months later, holding her father's hand while smiling at employees who greeted Rowan with genuine respect. She watched office workers laugh together over meals prepared from recipes carrying handwritten notes about kindness, patience, and family. The company slowly rebuilt its reputation, not through expensive advertising, not through polished speeches, but through transparency, humility, and everyday honesty. Celeste often walked through the cafeteria during lunch instead of eating inside private executive rooms. She greeted new employees personally and listened before speaking. The experience changed her leadership forever. Rowan eventually opened the neighborhood restaurant he had once believed impossible. Its walls displayed photographs donated by customers whose lives had been touched by second chances rather than perfection. Hazel proudly welcomed guests after school, telling everyone that her father's favorite ingredient had never been herbs or butter. It had always been hope. Before we reach the end of this journey, take a moment to leave a meaningful comment below. Have you ever faced a moment when telling the truth cost you something valuable, and what lesson did that experience teach you? Years later, visitors often asked whether the famous restaurant recipe that exposed a billion-dollar fraud had ever changed. Rowan always answered the same way in his heart. The ingredients remained exactly as they had been when his wife first wrote them into a stained notebook years before. Love could never be improved by shortcuts. Integrity needed no artificial flavor. The smallest act of honesty could protect countless lives, while the quiet courage of one ordinary parent could accomplish what wealth, power, and influence never could. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that kindness is never weakness, truth is never wasted, and the courage to do what is right can begin with something as simple as one homemade dish shared with love.